it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Wednesday, November 1st. And it is 2 minutes past 10 o'clock right here. And you're watching live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We go weeknights at 10 p.m. And usually on Wednesday nights, our regular collaborator is Craig Button of TSN. But I want to remind you that when the Montreal Canadiens played on Monday night versus the Vegas Golden Knights, that Eric Engels, who's our regular collaborator on Monday nights, unfortunately wasn't with us because, of course, he had to work, and we didn't bring you the podcast anyway because it was a 10 o'clock start, and we talked about that. So, you know what? Eric is going to be with us tonight, and Craig Button is going to be with us. And I think Eric's already logged on. Craig Button is not on yet. It'll give me an opportunity to give a shout out to Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also, a shout out to Playground, over 600 machines, poker tournaments, and Playground casino games, daily promotions, and unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else is what I tell everyone. Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground and Brewed in Quebec, and a winner of a dozen international awards. The Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Embrace your true nature, La Bittt at Tibi. Without further ado, let's bring Eric on. And when Craig joins us, he joins us. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, Tony. How are you?
Very, very, very good. Are you still in Vegas?
You got my amateur setup here in Arizona.
Oh, you're in Arizona already. Okay, yeah. Where the Canadiens play, of course, tomorrow night versus the Coyotes. They practiced where? In Vegas today, right? Before
no, in Arizona.
In Arizona, yeah. Okay. So when did they leave Vegas exactly? Or when did you leave Vegas?
Yesterday.
You left yesterday. Okay. All right.
We all left yesterday, and all the Canadians were at the Arizona Diamondbacks game yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Not all of them. There was a couple of them that weren't there, but over 20 members of the team and the training staff were sitting together at the baseball game. And
oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
We got a bit of a lemon in terms of a baseball game, but we'll see what happens tonight.
I saw the images on social media, as a matter of fact, so you're absolutely right about that. All right, okay. So you and Mr. Button at one point were hanging out together earlier today, were you not?
Well, we were both at the Canadiens practice, and for people who don't know, everybody in the media, whether we work for this person or that person, I think we all hang out. We all have a pretty good relationship. Most of the guys that I'm on the beat with in Montreal, I've been on the beat with this is my 16th season, and I can't say that every single person is there, but that has been there for the entire time that I've been there. But a lot of people have been there since before I've been there, and Craig has been doing Montreal Canadiens broadcasts ever since their network took over the regional broadcast. So, we all have a pretty good mutual respect thing going on, and I consider them all friends.
All right, okay. But what I think is pretty cool here, and it hasn't happened yet because we're trying to get a hold of Craig. But once we do get a hold of Craig, if it happens, it'll be something pretty cool that we'll have two premier members of the media from two very big networks that you normally wouldn't hear or see at the same time, that you will be able to hear and see at the same time at the Sick Podcast. Once again, we're trying to make that happen. I'm going to take a look at my phone to see if there's been a message from Craig, because, he has not logged on yet. Okay. No, I don't have anything yet, but I'm sure we will pretty soon. All right, okay. So why don't we
I'm sure
start
he'll be
without him? You wrote today about Josh Anderson. Did you not?
I wrote about that whole line.
Yeah.
I wrote about Josh Anderson, Alex Newhook, and Juraj Slafkovsky because the Canadians are 5-2-2, and they've gotten great goaltending, and they've gotten reliable defense, and they've gotten a bit of varied scoring throughout the lineup, but they're not getting anything from that line. And I think their chances have been there. I think their last 3 games, there have been a couple, but all 3 of them have kind of been searching for it a little bit. And they need to nip that in the bud right now. Like this team is not going to continue to succeed without that line starting to go. So I think all 3 of them know it. They spent time with Marty doing video today, and the main message there was balance each other out on the ice. And Marty uses that word a lot. I don't know if everybody really understands what he's talking about. I think he likes, in an ideal world, for if you consider like the 5 side of a die and that image, that's basically what you want to see in terms of balance on the ice. But in order to achieve that in all 3 zones, you have to kind of fill in the holes that are there based on how the defense is set up. And it means you have to read how your other 4 players are if you're an individual on the ice, all the 4 guys on your team, how they're going to line up so that you put yourself in the proper position. It means, stretching yourself out a little bit to make sure you're in balance, and sometimes bringing it a little closer together to make sure you're in balance. But the main point is getting to the right spot at the right time, and that means varying your speed. It means if, maybe Josh Anderson wants to be the first forechecker all the time and the guy who's getting to the net first, but if the situation doesn't call for him to be that because he's second, skating up the ice, he has to fill a position that gives the first forechecker an option, or gives, once the first forechecker goes in and misses, that he's in position to take advantage as the second forechecker. So I think that's a little bit of what we're talking about, what Marty St. Louis is always talking about with balance. And I think he went through a pretty extensive video session with those guys today to make sure that they get the concept and are applying it as soon as tomorrow.
Without further ado, let's say hello to Craig Button. Craig, how are you?
I am good, Tony. Sorry, I was struggling getting my sign-in going, so I apologize for that.
No, you don't have to apologize, Craig, because we would have. Yeah, we will. We would wait an infinite amount of time to talk to you. Hey, by the way, I just got off a podcast that was done in French, La Poche Bleue, belonging to Maxime Lapierre and Guillaume Latendresse, and I was on a panel with Jean-Charles Lajoie and Le Baron Alain Chantelois, and one man who said, say hello to Craig Button. I think he's a great hockey man. And you know who that would be? Who said that?
Was it Sergio?
It was Jean Perron.
Oh, I love Jean.
Yeah. So Jean Perron sends his best regards, Craig.
Well, I send them right back to him.
Fantastic.
And Eric, they were playing in the old, I forget what league it was, but Jean was coaching in San Francisco. And his assistant coach was Rod Langley. Well, Bob Gainey and I went in there to see Jean and Rod. And let me put it this way. They were playing in the old Cow Palace. And let me try. When I tell you Cow Palace, understand that it was aptly named. It was Cow Palace. And then we went out and had such a wonderful time after with Jean and Bob talking about the Stanley Cup in 1986, and certainly Rod had a lot of ties with my father after he got traded to Washington. I just remember just such a wonderful, wonderful evening, and regaling, hearing them regale stories about winning and playing together and everything that went with it. So it's always a pleasure to run in to those people. It's always nice to hear from them.
It's fantastic. Hey, Craig, before you joined me, I was saying to Eric, it's not very often that you're going to have 2 elite members of the media, 2 great hockey people like yourselves, who work for 2 different networks, 2 very big networks on at the same time. So I feel privileged, to tell you the truth, that we're able to bring this together tonight on the Sick Podcast. And it was I mentioned that you're a regular collaborator on Wednesdays and Eric's a regular collaborator on Mondays. But of course, on Monday, the Canadians played. We didn't have a podcast. And today I was talking with both of you, and Craig gave me a call at one point and says, yeah, I'm here with the rink with Eric, and why don't we all three of us go on at the same time? And I said, well, if you'd like that, sure. And he said, it's your show, Tony. I said, that sounds like a great idea to me. Let's do it. So we're doing it. Craig.
So let me just finish here. Full credit, it was Eric's idea.
Yeah.
And talked about it, and I said, hey, sounds good to me. I'm good with it. Eric said he's good with it. So let's go. I mean, it's a sick podcast with Tony Marinaro.
It's a great
you know what? Idea. We have two people here that follow the Canadians, and bottom line is there's there's a lot of respect that I have for Eric, and certainly, the insights that he brings to not only his everyday work with Sportsnet, but also to everything he touches. So to be part of it is a real honor for me as well.
Nice touch by you, Craig. A lot of class as usual. All right, okay. Eric today wrote about the Newhook, Anderson, Slafkovsky line that they need to get going. And Marty St. Louis met with them, and a lot of talk was about balance so that they could start balancing each other. I'm going to say something. I have no doubt in my mind, it's very early on in the season, by the way, that Alex Newhook can play center. I am starting to ask myself if he's not a better winger than he is a centerman. He's very north-south. He's got a tremendous amount of speed. I think he's most dangerous when, transition offense, defense, when the Canadians counter. We know that he's struggling in the face-off circle. He's got the lowest percentage on the team, with Monahan at 61 and Evans at 53 and Suzuki at 52 and Newhook at 38. Craig, am I off by saying that right now I think he's a better winger than he is a centerman?
Well, what I think you have to keep in mind is that, in Colorado, he was essentially a winger when he had a lot of his success. So he moves from, a prospect into a player. I mean, he was a winger on a Stanley Cup winning team, and that's where he found himself. So now to move back into the middle of the ice, there's some opportunity for him to have more open ice, to have more free ice, but there's also some learning parts of it too. And Eric, you were there, and Marty St. Louis talked about the other word he used to, there's got to be a fluidity in where you're playing the game and seeing what's unfolding in front of you. And I think that's part of the process for Alex. But Alex was a very gifted center in the BC Junior League. He was a very gifted center at Boston College. And maybe right today you might say that he might be a better winger. But then my question comes, well, who's going to play center there then? Because they don't have a better option to play center on that line, in my view. So despite some of the growing pains that Alex might be experiencing right now, and by extension the Montreal Canadiens, I don't see a better option.
Yeah, and I don't really see major growing pains there. And you know what, Tony, you just talked about how you think he's best in counterattacking and on the rush. And I mean, he's going to have a better opportunity to do that from the middle of the ice and at the center position. As far as faceoffs concerned, yes, is it concerning that he's at 38% and over his career is hovering around 40 or whatever it is? Sure. I think he takes the least amount of faceoffs on the team, so it's a little less concerning. And putting him up against the other three guys who are doing quite well, obviously he's going to be behind the pack, just as probably Kirby Dach would have been if he had remained healthy. One solution here, and even though I think he is a better centerman than he will be a winger, he could be a better top-line winger than he is a second-line center with the guys he's currently playing with. And I think we might see that soon, because you have Christian Dvorak, who is healthy and ready to return and is one game away from being released from long-term IR and being activated to be able to return. And I think we will see him return on Saturday in St. Louis. And when that happens, I think you could move Sean Monahan up. I don't think you would lose much of the dynamic that you see between Monahan, Gallagher, and Pearson. And if you're able to balance things out that way and put Newhook in a position where he's going to be getting a few more offensive touches than he's been getting on the line he's playing with, that could happen. The other thing that could happen is him, Anderson, and Slafkovsky, who were the topic of conversation today, could end up becoming the topic of conversation tomorrow against the Coyotes. Because when you walk into the locker room and you're the press and you start asking those guys questions about the fact that they haven't scored and this and that, and they say, well, I hadn't really been thinking about it that much. The team is winning. Obviously, it's, we're in a slump. We got to get things going. But the minute it starts to become front of mind kind of topic with the media, it could turn very quickly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Eric, I'm going to go back with you on this one. Then I'm going to go to Eric. And that is, everyone played pretty well on Monday night versus Vegas. I mean, Marty St. Louis says the best game that his team has played since he's been the coach of this team. Let's go back the game before that. I was at that game versus Winnipeg. Where do you think that line struggled the most? Because I have a take on this, but I'd like to hear your take before I give you mine, and then we'll discuss.
Are you asking Craig or me?
No, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think they had a hard time transitioning the puck up the ice. But that's 2 games ago. My memory might not be as targeted as what you're looking for here.
I'll tell you what I'm looking for, if I can. I'll tell you what I'm looking for. They start the second period. Marty St. Louis starts the second period with that line. Alex Newhook loses the faceoff. They lose possession of the puck. They don't get it back. Winnipeg scores a goal. Usually, not always, but usually, when you put a line out there to start a period, you're going to put a line that gives you the best opportunity to win the draw and gain possession of the puck. Usually, when that line gets scored on, if they do, you change lines up and you come back with something else. He kept them on the ice. Newhook lost the next draw. They never gained possession of the puck back again, and they gave up another goal, 2 quick goals like that. And I don't want to put this all on Newhook, but him losing, I think at one point after 2 periods of play, I think he was 10% in the dot on Saturday. And to St. Louis' credit, in overtime, he had a defensive zone faceoff. And I don't know if the defenseman was Jordan Harris or not, but he had Josh Anderson and he had Jake Evans.
He did it twice in overtime with Jake Evans. And then
Evans won the draw, and then Newhook came on the ice. Yeah.
The one thing I'll say before I leave it to Craig here is that Alex Newhook may be challenged in the faceoff circle, but he's definitely going to be challenged against Adam Lowry because that guy's a beast in the faceoff circle, and he was beating up on a few of the Canadians throughout that night.
Craig, your thoughts on why, and I think faceoff percentage is a big part of it, in my opinion, but your thoughts on why that line is struggling to put up points?
Well, I just want to say something, following Eric too, about Adam Lowry.
Yeah.
The Winnipeg Jets are a hard team to transition against now because the additions, Velarde's hurt right now, but the additions they've made, with Velarde, Kupari, and Iafallo, they're bigger and harder to play against. They're not easy to transition the puck against anymore. And, learning, from your position of center as you're trying to learn, and you're going up against Lowry, you're going up against Scheifele, and Nemesnikov's a real crafty center, these are all learning opportunities. And the one thing I love about Marty St. Louis, he did it the other night with Slafkovsky. He put him on the power play. He's trying to get Slafkovsky a little feel with the puck, a little feel with less pressure on him and everything, right? Is he ideal to be on the half wall with the puck? Not in my view, but I can see what Marty's trying to do with it. Now, when we talk about the faceoffs, Dot, I don't get fussed by it. Marty talked today too about, defense starts the minute you lose the puck. Doesn't start when you're in the defensive zone. So the minute they lose the puck, they want to be in a defensive mode of how are we going to get the puck back? So that's the same thing when you lose a faceoff. And so I don't think that faceoffs, we look at percentages and we can see what they say. You won it, you didn't win it. Sometimes, the faceoffs are won not so much by the guy at playing the center ice position, but by somebody jumping into the play and winning a loose puck off of a tied draw. And Sean Monahan, who's got a trick, but the other night in Vegas, there was 3 faceoffs. He's been terrific, don't get me wrong here, but there was 3 faceoffs where he got a lot of help from his wingers. And that might be more of a case of Slafkovsky and Anderson got to be ready to jump a little bit more. Now, I'll get to your question on the offense. Eric and I talked about this today. Josh Anderson's got to shoot the puck more. I think that Josh Anderson, as a shooter, has got to get into the mindset of shooting the puck. Shoot the puck and then follow it to the net. He's big, he's powerful, he's hungry. When he's trying to make plays with the puck, I think it takes him out of his greatest strengths. Newhook's crafty. I think Newhook can get the puck to those guys in the right spots. We've talked about Slafkovsky. Slafkovsky, let's call it what it is. He is developing in the NHL. There are going to be nights when he looks comfortable, and there's going to be nights when he doesn't. And that's the Montreal Canadiens, whether we think it's the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever, that's the path they're on with Slafkovsky. So you're going to have a little bit of this kind of, they're not scoring. But that team on Monday night generated a lot of chances. And Josh Anderson had a number of chances. I want to see Josh shoot it. I want to see him shoot it and then drive the net. I think that'll open up some more opportunities, not just for him, but for his line mates as well.
Eric, you've been covering the Canadiens for a long time, and you know what a lot of people are going to be watching out for tomorrow night, right? At the end of the night, they're going to see how many points Slafkovsky put up and how many points Logan Cooley put up. And then it's going to start all over again. And I hope for Slafkovsky that if he's going to start putting up points, it's going to be tomorrow night in Arizona, because if he has a night where he doesn't put any, and it's too bad we're talking this way because the kid is only 19 years old and he obviously doesn't need this pressure. But let's be honest, that's what a lot of members of the media are going to talk about, because it's a subject that sells, right? If Slafkovsky tomorrow night doesn't put up points and Logan Cooley does, that's where you're going to hear on the air all day.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a subject that you're going to hear on the air every day, because that's what the fans are going to be cued into also, and we're keyed in on what the fans are interested in. And you know what? Fair, unfair, 19 years old, 18 years old, it really doesn't matter. You're a man playing in the NHL. Once you're there, that's how you're treated. This is not a boys' league. It's a men's league. And these guys know what comes with that territory, and they won't be the first two players compared to each other over eras, and that's part of the gig, especially if you're a first overall pick. And I just want to remind people in Montreal, like, Jack Hughes never went to the AHL, and most people thought in his first year and even part of his second year before he got hurt that he was too undersized to play in the NHL at his age, even though his skill was eye-popping and incredible and he could produce points. Alexis Lafreniere, people are giving up on already. Joe Thornton, if you go back to a guy who just retired, I think Jeff Gordon brought this up. He had, 5 points in his first season. He played, I remember looking at it myself because this was a topic with Jesperi Kotkaniemi in Montreal, and look what he's doing right now in Carolina. Like Joe Thornton, his first season, not only was he scratched a bunch, he played under 8 minutes, like 30 times or something like that. Like I can't remember specifically what it was. Bottom line is, like, just let these guys play, and they're in the situation they're in. And yes, it's going to be overwhelming at times. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a lot of pressure, but they're going to grow from it if they have the character to grow. And one of the big reasons why they drafted this kid is his character, Slafkovsky I'm talking about. So I just think, yeah, if it ends up being a story about Cooley and Slafkovsky tomorrow, that's what it's going to be, and I might write about it.
Yeah, Eric, you gave me some great examples. Eric, you gave me some great examples, though, of players who broke into the National Hockey League at 18 years of age, and they didn't have to go to the American Hockey League. But for every example that you can give me, as you're aware, I can give you examples of players who did go to the American Hockey League now, or stayed an extra year.
Not a lot of first overall picks, though.
No, not a lot of first overall picks, but you can make the argument that maybe Slafkovsky shouldn't have been a 1 overall. So, for example, the last time I spoke with Craig, I believe, Craig said, and Craig, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that in his ideal world, he would have kept Slafkovsky in Finland for 1 more season and then sent him to the World Juniors. Simo Snake Boisvert was on the podcast last night, and he brought up an interesting name. And the name that he brought up, Craig, was the name of Mikko Rantanen. And I think it's a very interesting name because when Slafkovsky was drafted, they asked him, who is your NHL comparable, or who do you see yourself as, and who would you like to be? And he said, Mikko Rantanen. Well, Mikko Rantanen Also played in Finland before playing in the National Hockey League. Also played in Finland. Ironically, actually also played for TPS Turku. Was also a 6'4" winger who shoots left. And Rantanen had 3 seasons in Finland as a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and played as an 18-year-old in Finland instead of playing in the National Hockey League. When he got to the National Hockey League at age 19, he played 9 games and then was sent down to play the next 56 with the San Antonio Rampage in the American Hockey League. And Rantanen's career has been unbelievable in Colorado, playing alongside Nathan MacKinnon, of course, and you're seeing a progression all the time. So, Craig, as much as Eric gave examples that would support staying in the National Hockey League, here's a great example of a player who stayed 1 more year in Finland the way you would have liked and played some games at the American Hockey League level, and he's doing great.
So when I was talking earlier in our conversation, I mentioned that the Montreal Canadiens are fully aware of what they're doing with Slafkovsky. And like I said, we can agree with it or disagree with it or say I prefer a different path, and that's fine. So they obviously they're committed to this point in time. They've shown that. They've shown an unwavering commitment. But what it does, it's great to say we're going to help you develop here. But one of the things that ends up happening with young players is the more you're playing in the best league on the planet, and this is the NHL, and to Eric's point, you know what, you're the first overall pick, you're in the NHL, this is what goes with the territory. And that's what everybody has to deal with. The Montreal Canadiens management, the coaching, and Juraj Slafkovsky. But what ends up happening is the longer you go without having success, the harder it becomes to find success. And that's the fear I have with Juraj Slafkovsky. That's the fear I have with any young player. It's that the league is hard. And right now, you know, you watch Juraj play, and he's green. He's green. And there's nothing wrong with being green at this age. But and they can talk to him every day. But when you're not having success as a player, and Juraj knows what success looks like, you can hear it every day how much we believe in you. Your inner belief is gone. And that's what the Montreal Canadiens, in my view, have to be cognizant of. That's, Tony, that's where I think NHL teams have failed players again and again and again and again. And we'll be talking about this in 5 years' time about other teams that do it. I don't know why, but it happens. But the players are the ones that lose confidence, and then they don't have success. And then we all wake up and go, well, geez, he didn't pan out. Well, okay. I think Slafkovsky's a really good player. But he's not ready for the NHL, in my view. I'd have him so far out of Montreal, out of the spotlight there, just because of what Eric said. The demands, the spotlight, what goes with it, I wouldn't have him anywhere near Montreal right now.
I just want to chime in here and just say, first of all, I'm not against Juraj Slafkovsky spending time in the AHL. If you want to get him far removed from the spotlight in Montreal, the unfortunate part of the situation for the Canadiens is that Laval isn't that far out of the way, and the spotlight can still be pretty intense if he ends up on an AHL stint with that team in this market, because it's still the same media covering him, it's still the same fan base watching him, and from real up close. Could it be beneficial for him eventually? Yes. One thing I like, and Craig mentioned this, the Montreal Canadiens know exactly what their plan is, whether you agree with it or not. One thing I like about the way they've handled it is they've kept Slafkovsky in the loop with that plan all the way along, but they've tried to manage his own personal expectations in terms of what he's all about. Tony, you brought up Mikko Rantanen. Very good point you made in terms of the value of getting a little bit of experience in the AHL. You talked about the fact that he played with Nathan MacKinnon. Now, Nathan MacKinnon had respectable numbers as a rookie in the NHL. It took him 4 seasons before he became the player that people expected to see. And that's the only thing that I'm trying to make as a point here on Slafkovsky. It takes time, whether they develop in the AHL or the NHL, whether the first overall pick, the 3rd overall pick, or the 8th overall pick. It doesn't really matter. It takes time for these kids to realize their potential. There have been countless examples. Kirby Dach is an excellent one right away, right off the hop, in terms of a 3rd overall pick with tons of expectations, who never went to the AHL, played in the NHL. He had 3 somewhat underwhelming seasons with Chicago. He had a pretty strong first one with Montreal and looked like he was ready in the 4th one, in his 5th season, like Nathan MacKinnon, to take that next step. So people, one of the reasons why I think Craig is saying I'd have him so far out of the spotlight in Montreal is because that spotlight is so scorching at a point where even if Slafkovsky himself understands what the internal expectations are and is managing his own expectations, even if the Canadians know what they are and they're managing their own expectations, the fans and the media are dissecting this just like we are right now on a daily, forget daily, on a minute-to-minute basis. So I understand the sentiment, and I'm not opposed to the idea of this kid spending some time down there.
Maxim Lapierre.
Can I just say something, Tony, real quick? Really well said. Really well said, Eric, about, you know, his internal expectations. He is in the spotlight, and there's nothing he can do about that. And everybody's going to look at it. What do you think about Euro? I mean, I talked to an Arizona reporter today. He's asking me about Slafkovsky because Guhle went 3rd overall. Like, the story is Guhle, Slafkovsky. And like, you know, Brian Mudryk. We're going to have Bill Armstrong on during one of the intermissions on Thursday night. And one of the questions is, what was your thought process taking Logan Guhle? Like, it's there.
Yeah, it's not like Kent didn't know him.
Yeah, and you're right about that. But you know what I think is interesting, that whole scenario, by the way, is that Andre Tourigny knew Shane Wright pretty well, and Arizona drafted Logan Guhle and passed on Shane Wright. And I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Okay, but anyway, Eric, the one thing though, when you brought up Nathan MacKinnon, and I'd love to get your take on this, guys, is that it took Nathan MacKinnon 4 years to become Nathan MacKinnon in the National Hockey League, because we know that the National Hockey League is the next step, and it's the best league in the world and the fastest league in the world, and especially at the center ice position, and he's going up against superstars, and you know, you gain experience and then you get better and better. But MacKinnon didn't have to work on the things that Slafkovsky has to work on. And that's why I'm wondering now if the National Hockey League really is the best place for Slafkovsky to learn these things, because MacKinnon can process the game very, very fast upstairs. And this has been my take all along with Slafkovsky, and I'm not going to waver from it, is that we all know what his strengths are, right? He's big, he's strong, and when he skates, he carves up the ice. And, you know, when he was playing against players that were smaller than him, you know, you put one shoulder down, you go down the wing, and you go to the net and all that stuff. But because he relied on that so much, he didn't have to rely on him processing the game or the hockey IQ part of it. Now he has to. And I'm wondering if that's what he has to work on the most. Is that part of it? Is it in the National Hockey League that it's going to get better, or at the American Hockey League where he would have more time to make these decisions?
You're asking the best question right now, because you're getting inside the Canadians' thought process on why he is in the NHL. Because if the idea to send him to the AHL is really to get him the puck touches, get him the confidence, boost his confidence so he can go down there and dangle guys and score goals and do the things that he was used to doing in Slovakia and in Finland before coming to Montreal, then absolutely send him there, get him those touches, get him those goals, get him feeling good about himself. If there's a value in that and they believe that value supersedes why they have him in the NHL right now, then by all means make that move. But the reason they have him in the NHL right now is because they don't believe he's going to learn to process the game at NHL speed in the AHL. And that the going down there and being able to dangle guys with his skill, and he has incredible skill, by the way. People, I don't even think, realize to what extent his skill is there, because it hasn't been displayed as often as they'd like to see in the National Hockey League at this stage. But when it comes to processing the game, if he goes down and starts to get back into those old habits of what brought him to the NHL, I think he loses a bit on the development side of what he wants to get to in terms of processing the game, making his reads. And let's not forget, like, the progress that he made in training camp and through the first roughly 5 to 6 games of the season before the last 3 looked like he was a little bit lost out there. He was having the puck on his stick a lot more frequently than we saw last year. There has been progress here. It's so easily blurred by the point totals, and the point totals would be different if Josh Anderson had 3 goals this year instead of 0, and Alex Newhook wasn't hitting the post every time he shot the puck. So
that's
keep
true
things
too.
in perspective. But you asked a great question, Tony, because The value of sending him to the American Hockey League is a confidence thing, but if it's about development and development of what he needs to do in order to become, and there's one thing, and Craig is going to take off on this, I know he will. There's one thing that it doesn't matter if it's in the AHL, the NHL, the defunct IHL, or in Europe. The one thing that is going to take time, no matter where he is growing into his body and learning how to use it. That is going to take time, no matter where he plays.
Totally true, and you're right. I mean, I call it the natural laws of maturity: physical, mental, and emotional. You can't speed them up, and every player goes at a different rate. You know, Tony, I'll take you back in time to we had a player in Dallas, Jere Lehtinen, and he'd been great. He played in TPS, coincidentally, same place as Slafkovsky. We brought him over. Jere was 22 when we brought him over. And he'd had all kinds of success, won a world championship, was great. Anyway, he's down playing in Dallas, and, he's ready. He's come over, and he was struggling. And we sent him down to the American Hockey League, or to the IHL at that time, because Bob Gainey was coaching, and we need a little bit more out of him offensively. We sent him down. We finally got to him, and that wasn't the plan for him. He went to Milwaukee. I happened to be at the game in Milwaukee. He was the best player on the ice. Wasn't even close. He scored a goal. That was his only game he played in the IHL. And after he came back up. So sometimes, the confidence part of it, it's not so much that you gotta dispatch him there and say, see you in 3 months. I don't know when the confidence, and you just pick you can pick a spot to do it. And then you monitor it. And sometimes, just a little bit of confidence helps with that other part. And to Eric's point, and you're trying to get players as they move to the best league in the world to try to get into those NHL habits. And that's an important part of growth and development for young players. But, they might be able to find a time where, okay, you know what, you're working on this, now go down there and get some puck touches. And maybe for Jere Lehtinen, it was that obvious in one game. He never played another game in the minors. And it was amazing to watch. Now, he was 22, but it was amazing to watch just that confidence that he all of a sudden, I can score, okay, I'm okay. And he took it right back to Dallas. Now,
It's funny you say that, because Jere Lehtinen was very much a Bob Gainey kind of player. And Bob Gainey wouldn't have to provide offense to prove his worth when he was playing with the Montreal Canadiens, right? But every now and then he would give you a big goal or two. But Jere Lehtinen, like Bob Gainey, was a great 200-foot hockey player.
Oh, can we just
3-time Selke Trophy winner?
Yeah.
Criminal that he's the last winger to win the Selke Trophy. And
I agree, honestly, Eric. I agree.
Like, now Bergeron has stepped aside, deservedly taking his retirement. There's a couple wingers in the game who are very, very worthy of winning that trophy. And one of them was Bergeron's line mate, Brad Marchand. I think that's a guy who could have won the Selke a lot of the years that Bergeron did. We started to plug face-off percentage as such a key factor in this. The other guy's Mitch Marner. Like, he's the best penalty-killing forward in the NHL. But Jere Lehtinen, that's what it makes me. He was an unbelievable player. Unbelievable.
But even though, Tony, just quickly, Jere wasn't about scoring so much. Jere was just like in that. Do I belong? Do I not belong? Am I sure of myself? Am I not sure of myself? He just needed to get kind of his I'll use a Bob Gaineyism. He needed to tighten up his laces and just play. And the one game did it. And now we didn't plan on one game. We just go down and play, but it was so obvious after that one game. But and I think that there might be opportunities. But to Eric's point, like, Montreal knows what they're doing, and you're trying to keep your finger on the pulse of Uri's confidence, and that becomes important.
Yeah, it's you're right, though. When you guys talk about Patrice Bergeron retiring, it's going to give others a chance to win it. I think Nico Hischier has been a candidate a couple of years in a row now, and he hasn't been able to win it. So he's put up some pretty good seasons himself. Elias Lindholm as well. Alexander Barkov.
Barkov's going to be dominant in that category for the next while.
Yeah.
Can I you stay up late and watch the guy that plays out in Vancouver, because he's going to be in that mix too, Elias Pettersson.
Yeah. Is he on fire or what this year? He's really on fire.
I'm very happy I have him on my fantasy team.
He had 100 points last year, Tony.
I don't know. You just struck a nerve with the whole fantasy thing. I got asked to be part of a pool this year, and I'm usually all for those pools where you just take your players, and at the end of the year, their points is their points. Anyway, we're about 5 weeks in or 6 weeks in, and I just found out that you have to drop players, bring up players, drop
you
players.
You got to manage, man.
Hey.
You got to be a manager.
I don't have time
You're
for this.
Like, manager here.
I understand this, but I'm not 15 years old anymore. I don't have time for this. Bring up players, drop players, bring players, drop. Anyway, long story short, I'm not doing well in my pool. So lose. Anyway, if anyone wants to buy my my pool, you got it. I'll give you my share. Kaiden Guhle is +8. He's +8. He's got the best plus minus on the team. He averages 20 minutes per game. When was it? The other night, he was like flying, like absolutely flying. Did he play 26 minutes in Vegas? I think he played 26 minutes. He was unreal. Craig, when the Canadians drafted Kaiden Guhle, a lot of people who knew him told me they just drafted a heck of a stay-at-home defenseman. A lot of people told me they drafted a real leader. A lot of people told me he's a top 3 guy and will be for the next 15 years in the National Hockey League. What is his ceiling?
Number 1 pillar defenseman. Simply put. I mean, all the things you just said he was rejected as, he's all of those things. He's an excellent two-way defenseman. He's a top 3 defenseman. He's a guy that can shut down the opponents. But his game is developing in every year, and that's why I don't hesitate in saying a number 1 pillar defenseman. A number 1 pillar defenseman. That's what his ceiling is in my view.
I think Canadians fans have been crying for years about that trade that left Ryan McDonagh outside of Montreal. If you like Ryan McDonagh, you're going to like Kaiden Guhle.
Yep.
For the rest of his career. And honestly, I asked Guhle, who he really admires in the league and wants to model his game after. That was one player he mentioned. The other was Jaccob Slavin. And I'm going to put a very bold statement out there right now because I think the world of Jaccob Slavin as a player. I think Kaiden Guhle is going to be just as good as that player.
Eric, what do you think of the fact that Matheson has been on the first wave of the power play and Jack-Eye on the second? We're waiting to see if Guhle can bring some offense to his game. We are seeing flashes of that where we're talking about his potential right now. And Craig just said number 1 pillar defenseman. A lot of people believe that he could end up putting up points at the National Hockey League level. He could probably end up being a point every other game as a defenseman. Clearly, it will help him if he's on the power play, put up those points. Your thoughts on him not seeing the ice on the power play?
I think just wait, because honestly, his value to the penalty kill is enormous, and he's put an immediate boost on the penalty kill the way he's playing there. The other thing I'd say is the power play, which is such a focal point in Montreal, whether it's going good or bad, has scored in, I think, 5 of the last 6 games and is hovering at 20%, which is more than respectable considering the elements and also the familiarity factor. Like, this is a young team. It's the 3rd youngest team in the NHL. Yes, a lot of these guys were here last year, and that's helped them become a bit better on the power play this year. Familiarity is the key for a power play that operates well, and that's why Tampa was great for years, Chicago great for years before that, all that stuff. So I think Kaiden Guhle will get there. I think he will be used on the power play at times. But right now, is it a necessity? No, because what he's giving you in every other situation is essential. But like Craig said, if you see him as a future number 1, there's no situation he won't be put in.
Guys, so appreciate your time.
Let me just add one more thing here, Tony, to Eric's point. Right, like the power play is humming along. It looks good, 20%. And so that, which I mean, we talked about the power play a couple weeks ago, and I said, hey, that's on Alex. Alex has got to use the players he's got.
That's why I got going, Craig, because you gave the wake-up call.
Yeah. Alex knows when something's working and when it's not. I know that about Alex Burrows. But when so the power play is going well. You got familiarity on it, right? And so, just keep working with that. And Caiden's going to get an opportunity there. There's no question about it, because he's going to create his own opportunity. And then we can just see what unfolds. I think one of the things I really like about Jack-Eye on the power play is the shot. And one of the things I've noticed with Arbor this year I want to see him use the shot more. He seems to be trying to finesse it a little bit. Just shoot it and, get it in there. He's got the ability to get it through traffic and everything, but the power play is going good. So, right now, and it would be one thing if you're getting the percentages and you're going, oh, well, the numbers are good, but it doesn't look good. The power play looks good.
Guys, in 30 seconds, because it happened earlier today, and we're going to rapid fire here, right? My first question is going to be, Pierre Dorion relieved of his duties, justified or not? My second question is going to be, who's the next general manager of the Ottawa Senators? Eric, you go first.
Justified, most smokescreen kind of story possible. I think this first round pick was just the opportunity to sign off on it, to be honest with you. Like, this was going to happen going back in time. As soon as Andlauer was taking over and Staios was coming in, Dorion was kind of on borrowed time. And I think, you look at the body of work, he's done some good things in a vacuum. The entire body of work, nobody lasts eternally in this league in that position. And I think he was around his due date here. So, and I think the GM will be Staios for now, and they better be very extensive on how they decide who the next person will be that goes underneath Staios.
Listen, I think it's justified. 8 years Pierre was there. In the meeting that Pierre and Michael Andlauer had on Tuesday night, Michael Andlauer says, when you make such an egregious error, it should cost you your job. And, we could make any other case for it, but bottom line is, that's why Pierre agreed to part ways. I think Steve Staios is a general manager. I think the key for Steve now is who's he going to surround himself with. Steve's a really sharp guy. He knows what success looks like. He knows what it tastes like. He knows what it feels like, and he was brought in here to lead the hockey group. And I think and he will do that. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he surrounds himself. I think that you'll see him be the president and the general manager, and I think that he is absolutely the right guy to do that. But he's going to need some people around him that can help him, in this new role and do some of the other duties that required of it. But I have no doubt that Steve is the guy, and him and Michael Andlauer have had a record of success. And I think that there's no reason for me to believe that won't find a similar path in Ottawa.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a great night. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
All right. There you have it. Craig Button of TSN and Eric Engels of Sportsnet. That was a real treat, huh, guys and girls watching. When are you going to get the opportunity to see Craig and Eric on the same panel, huh? When are you going to get the opportunity to see Craig and Eric on the same panel? I don't know. I thought that was really, really something. All right. Okay. On that note, it is 10:49. And if you want to give me a call, we will open up the phone lines at 1-888-585-SICK, 1-888-585-7425. And if you don't want to give me a call, but you want to send over a message, a question, and stuff like that, we can get to you as well. No problem at all. We can do that as well. All right. So why don't we do that? And Yellow, Sammy, get the questions over here and put them up, and we can get to the phone lines once again. I see Stefan in Quebec City is on the YouTube chat. Steve Staios, interesting enough, both of them say that they see him being the general manager. They see him being the general manager of the Ottawa Senators. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Peter Chiarelli. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter Chiarelli surrounds Steve Staios. If Peter Chiarelli does surround Steve Staios, I wouldn't be surprised if Claude Julien, who's from the Gatineau area, of course, ends up becoming the head coach of the Ottawa Senators. Some are talking about Matthew Darche. Matthew Darche has, as general manager, he has a relationship, of course, with Michael Andlauer as well, because he played in Hamilton when Andlauer owned the team. These are names that are coming up there. But, Pierre Dorion, when you've been there for that long and you miss the playoffs all the time, in the last month, he almost lost a couple of prospects on waivers for nothing. And now you end up, first round pick. And this is a team that's, we don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs this year, but yet they're up against the cap and there's not much flexibility. You saw it coming. And as Eric said, when Michael Andlauer bought the team, you just knew that he was going to put his people and the first opportunity he got. Hey, it's unbelievable how honest and genuine Andlauer was today, right? You can tell he wasn't very happy with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman when he basically said, translation, I wish I would have known about a player and the gambling situation. And I wish I would have known about this punishment of the first round pick before I bought the team. I mean, the guy just bought the team for $950 million, and this is what he inherits. And you could tell he was upset today when he talked about it. He says, okay, well, in the last 30 days, I had 2 injuries. I had player with the gambling thing. I had now losing the first round pick, 3 losses in a row. Wasn't a happy guy, Michael Andlauer. But I loved the fact that he wasn't scared to say what he thought. He just said it. And I hope he's going to continue to be that way, but he probably won't, because I would imagine the league will probably pick up the phone and give him a call and say, what are you doing? And then he'll probably tell them off, because you can tell today he wasn't happy. Let's take your calls.
You called. Presented by Playground.
By Playground. Let's get to your calls at 1-888-585-7425, 1-888-585-SICK. Your calls are toll-free, so don't worry about it. There are no long-distance charges if you're not calling me from Montreal. Louis. Is it Louis or Louis Philippe?
C'est Louis Philippe. It's Louis Philippe. LP, how are you?
LP, how are you? Where are you calling me from?
I call from Houston, but I'm a Montrealais.
Ah, okay. So what do you, life brought you to Houston some time ago, or are you just there for a couple of days? What's the story here?
No, yeah, I live here. I'm just finished school, and I had an opportunity to move down here and decided to chase the American dream.
Finished school?
I miss Montreal. So I miss Montreal, my man.
You finished school and you had an opportunity, which means you did your studies in the States. You started networking, and you got a huge opportunity in Houston, and you're making a lot more money than you would make here, and that's the decision you took. Am I right?
Close enough, yes.
Close enough. Okay,
I did my schooling in Montreal, but you know what? The money's great, but again, Canada, there's something about it you can't.
You're right about that. You're right about that. All the best to you, my man. What's on your mind?
Hey, first off, great show with the guests tonight, Eric.
I really enjoyed it. I hope others watching did as well. It was there's a lot of information coming there.
Something about the moderation was just top notch. Hey, really excited. I'm calling for. I've got a question, but right before I dive in, quick personal favor. Tomorrow, I'm taking my 5-year-old for her first Canadians game in Arizona. We're flying over. She doesn't know.
Oh, that's
cool. Wish her a happy game, because I'm going to play this for her tomorrow. She's going to get all crazy. She listens to you every day in the car.
Of course. What's her name?
Olivia.
Olivia. She's a big Canadians fan or not?
She is, although she likes to get under my skin and cheer for the opposing team.
All right. Okay. So you're going just you and her to the game?
My sister's going to meet us there. We're kind of a family all over the place.
All right. Your sister's name is?
Sarah.
Sarah. All right. Okay. Let's do this right now. Hi, Olivia. This is Tony Marinaro from the Sick Podcast. Your dad, Louis Philippe, tells me that you're going to be going to the hockey game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Arizona Coyotes. You're going to be going with your dad and with your Aunt Sarah. It sounds like you're a lucky girl, and it sounds like they're pretty lucky to have you in their lives as well. I know you love the Montreal Canadiens. I can't guarantee you a win, but I will tell you this. Marty St. Louis teams play with a lot of passion. I know you're going to be entertained, and hopefully Cole Caulfield scores a goal for you, because when Cole scores them, they're usually pretty nice. Have a great time at the game, Olivia. I'm Tony Marinaro from the Sick Podcast, and I'm one of your best friends in the entire world. You call me anytime. You love the Habs. I love the Habs. Go Habs, go. This smoke show is for you.
Great energy. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. All right, okay. Let's continue now. Let's pick up where we left off. What's going on?
Yeah. Hey, look, lots of cool stuff to talk about the Habs, but the Senators stuff today is really interesting. That Andlauer press conference was refreshing. My question to you is, do you think, first of all, do you think Bettman's power is at its peak, or is it waning? And do you think that Andlauer, may be kind of might be ushering in a new attitude, kind of the attitude era of owners,
Yeah. No, listen, I just think he's a guy that's been, Andlauer that's been involved in the game and around the game and invested in the game and in teams. And he was a part owner of the Montreal Canadiens. He had a share that, by the way, he sold at a value of the Canadiens being valued at around, $2.5 billion, which is pretty cool. But I just think that Andlauer, it was his way of saying, Gary, after all the time that I've been involved in the league and all the time that we've known each other, I deserved for you to be transparent with me. I just shelled out $950 million on a team, and you withheld this information from me. And I think that's really cheap on your part. And I'm not happy, and I'm disappointed in you, and I'm pissed off. And you know what? I'm going to tell everybody how I feel. And that's exactly what he did. Now, as for Gary Bettman and, him running the league basically, and, he's been the commissioner of the National Hockey League since 1993 when the Canadiens won the Cup. That's when he's been at it for 30 years. And, I know the owners like him because, the league makes money and they make money. But I don't see how much longer he can do this, to tell you the truth. He's in his early 70s. And, I don't know if he has any intention of walking away or if he's going to be replaced at one point. But I would be willing to say that, 3-4 more years, max? Not more than that, I would think.
Yeah.
Long
live the king. The king is dead, huh?
Yeah. Hey, Louis, that was...
Hey, thanks for the great...
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, and have a good time with Olivia and your sister Sarah tomorrow. All right, cheers, my man. All right, there you have it. Louis Philippe in Houston. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully, Olivia gets a kick out of that when she watches it tomorrow morning. That'll be good. Where are we going now? We are going to AJ in Edmonton. AJ,
hey, Tony, great show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What's going on with you, my man?
Another night watching your show. And I just,
thank you.
I've got a few questions building up during the week here, but I'll only ask you one, I guess. With all the success the team is having as of late, which is, great to see, and I love watching it. I'm a little lost as to what's going to happen at the deadline. I mean, if they do get into the playoffs, that kind of goes, maybe against what everybody was kind of, thinking was going to happen. Meaning, they have a few players they're supposed to get rid of, maybe broker a deal for another team. Are they going to be buyers or sellers? I mean, what?
It's a great question, AJ. I know a lot of people are talking about Sean Monahan, who's off to a great start. I mean, right now, after 9 games, he's been the Montreal Canadiens' most consistent forward, I think, in terms of playing a 200-foot game, as good as Caulfield has been, who's leading the team with points. With 10 in 9 games, and Monahan has 8 in 9 games. But Monahan is 61% in the faceoff circle. Monahan is a +5, so he's the best faceoff percentage on the team. He's the best plus-minus among forwards. But at the same time, if you listen to what Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes have said all along, they have a plan, and regardless of where they're going to be in the standings, they're going to do things according to the plan. So if the Canadiens are 2 points out of a playoff spot or hanging on to that final playoff spot, if you're asking me, are the Canadiens going to go out and acquire a player and give up a prospect and a first-round pick or whatever in order to get that player to solidify a playoff spot or try and put them over the hump? They're not going to do that based on what Gordon and Hughes have been telling us, unless they're pulling a fast one on us, which I don't think they are, they're going to stick to the plan. And they're not going to give up grade A prospects or grade A draft choices for immediate help. They're not going to do it.
Well, I hope not, just because, I think the course that they're on now is the proper course. It's proving fruitful, and it's paying dividends right now for them in certain areas and most areas of all their acquisitions. And I mean, I think, just to go a round or two and keep the gang together, is detrimental to the future, to say the least. I mean, I know you're a big fan of keeping Monahan and extending them, and I kind of heard the different scenarios and whatnot. To be quite honest with you,
I'm a fan of keeping Monahan and extending him if it's like a 3-year deal. Because, I mean, think about this, okay? AJ, think about this. Everybody loves Sean Monahan. I don't know of one Montreal Canadiens fan who doesn't love Sean Monahan. He's an honest player, seems like a great guy. He's a good 200-foot player. He's very, very smart. But if Monahan continues to put up the numbers, and if Monahan continues to show his worth, that Monahan is one of the top 3 most valuable forwards on the Canadiens. Well, if Nick Suzuki is getting $7.875 million per year, and Cole Caulfield's getting $7.85 million per year, well, then Monahan is going to want, or his agent's going to want, over $6 million, and anywhere between $6 million and just under that amount, right? So if that ends up being a 3-year deal, I think a lot of people will say, okay, no problem, because the Canadiens they can use an experienced guy like that to help bring the young guys along. But what if all of a sudden he starts asking for a 6-year deal because that's going to be the final deal of his career? Would you tie in that amount of money, $6+ million, to Sean Monahan if it's a 6-year deal? I wouldn't, but I still love the player.
I would allocate the time, but to be quite honest with you, I think it makes 0 sense not to trade him at the deadline. And I'll tell you why. I mean, he's a free agent, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You could circle back to him at any time. Not to say that he's going to say yeah, but you could, and you still have a great chance of getting him. And really getting a 1st-round pick to take his contract, having your own 1st-round pick, then maybe getting at least another 1st-round pick for him, and then maybe a 4th 1st-round pick for somebody else on the team.
Yeah,
that's a lot of currency to go out and get what you need for this team, right? So I mean, I think it'd be silly just to. I don't see them keeping him. I really don't. I think they see the value in what he can bring and what he will bring and what he will demand at the deadline, and I think they make the move with him, and I think he knows that.
I mentioned this. Yes, pardon me. I mentioned this to Max Lapierre and Guillaume Latendresse earlier this evening that the Canadiens obviously have Suzuki as their number 1 centerman, and going into the season probably thought that Doc would be their number 2 centerman, because they made it clear that they see Doc as a centerman more so than as a winger, and they want to go forward with him as a centerman. Well, I think one of the reasons why they pulled the trigger and they went to get Newhook in a trade is to make Newhook the 3rd-line centerman, right? Eventually end up trading Dvorak and eventually end up trading Monahan. And I think they went to get Newhook because in their heads, in their minds, Monahan was going to be traded before the deadline. That doesn't mean they can't change their mind. They obviously can if they believe that they're further along in the process than they probably thought they were. But look, I can see anything happening here. But if Monahan signs, this is what I can't see happening is that if they do sign Monahan, that he signs a 6-year deal or whatever. I don't see that happen. I would be shocked. To say they would sign him to a 3-year deal, I can see that. But even still today, if I was a betting man, I would bet that, if he continues to having a great season the way he's having, that they'll trade him before the deadline. AJ, this was a great call. You call me anytime, okay?
That's what I was hoping for. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you, AJ. You call me anytime. I really appreciate you listening to me out of Edmonton. And you know what? That's it for us. This was a fun show. A lot of fun. I want to thank once again Bittt Tibi for partnering up with us. I want to thank Playground for partnering up with us. And I want to thank Energy Transportation Group for also being a fantastic partner. We have great partners on this program: Energy Transportation Group, Playground, and Bittt at Tibi. Franiello, Sammy, and Juliana at Master Control. They're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.